My dad left me a strange box of envelopes before he passed. It changed my life. Death is always a surprise. No one expects it. Not even terminal patients think they're going to die in a day or two. In a week, maybe. It was no different with my father. In fact, his death was even more unexpected. He was gone at age 27. The same age that claimed the lives of several famous musicians. He was young. Way too young. Cancer doesn't choose its victims. He was gone when I was young, and I learned what a funeral was because of him. I was 8.5, old enough to miss him for a lifetime. My mother picked me up at school and we went to the hospital. The doctor told the news with all the sensitivity that doctors lose over the years. My mother cried. She did have a tiny bit of hope. As I said before, everyone does. I felt the blow. What does it mean? Wasn't it just a regular disease, the kind of disease doctors heal with a shot? I hated you, Dad. I felt betrayed. I screamed with anger in the hospital, until I realized my father was not around to ground me. I cried. With a shoebox under her arm, a nurse came by to comfort me. The box was full of sealed envelopes, with sentences where the address should be. I couldn't understand exactly what was going on. The nurse then handed me a letter. The only letter that was out of the box. Your dad asked me to give you this letter. He spent the whole week writing these, and he wants you to read it. Be strong. The nurse said, holding me. The envelope read when I'm gone. I opened it. Son, if you're reading this, I'm dead. I'm sorry. I knew I was going to die. I didn't want to tell you what was going to happen, I didn't want to see you crying. Well, it looks like I've made it. I think that a man who's about to die has the right to act a little bit selfish. Well, as you can see, I still have a lot to teach you. After all, you don't know crap about anything. So I wrote these letters for you. You must not open them before the right moment, okay? This is our deal. I love you. Take care of your mom. You're the man of the house now. Love, Dad. P.S. I didn't write letters to your mom. She's got my car. He made me stop crying with his bad handwriting. Printing was not easy back then. His ugly writing, which I barely understood, made me feel calm. It made me smile. That's how my father did things. Like the joke before the grounding. That box became the most important thing in the world for me. I told my mother not to open it. Those letters were mine and no one else could read them. I knew all the life moments written on the envelopes by heart. But it took a while for these moments to happen. And I forgot about it. 7 years later, after we moved to a new place, I had no idea where I put the box. I couldn't remember it. And when we don't remember something, we usually don't care about it. If something goes lost in your memory, it doesn't mean you lost it. It simply doesn't exist anymore. It's like change in the pockets of your trousers. And so it happened. My teenage years and my mother's new boyfriend triggered what my father had anticipated a long time before. My mother had several boyfriends, and I always understood it. She never married again. I don't know why, but I like to believe that my father has been the love of her life. This boyfriend, however, was worthless. I thought she was humiliating herself by dating him. He had no respect for her. She deserved something a lot better than a guy she met at a bar. I still remember the slap she gave me after I pronounced the word bar. I'll admit that I deserved it. I learned that over the years. At the time, when my skin was still burning from the slap, I remembered the box and the letters. I remembered a specific letter, which read, when you have the worst fight ever with your mom. I ransacked my bedroom looking for it, which earned me another slap in the face. I found the box inside a suitcase lying on top of the wardrobe. The limbo. I looked through the letters, and realized that I had forgotten to open when you have your first kiss. I hated myself for doing that, and I decided that would be the next letter I'd open. When you lose your virginity came right next in the pack, a letter I was hoping to open really soon. Eventually I found what I was looking for. Now apologize to her. I don't know why you're fighting and I don't know who's right. But I know your mother. So a humble apology is the best way to get over this. I'm talking about a down on your knees apology. She's your mother, kid. She loves you more than anything in this world. Do you know that she went through natural birth because someone told her that it would be the best for you? Have you ever seen a woman giving birth? Do you need a bigger proof of love than that? Apologize. She'll forgive you. Love, Dad. My father was not a great writer, he was just a bank clerk. But his words had a great impact on me. They were words that carried more wisdom than all of my 15 years of age at the time. I rushed to my mother's room and opened the door. I was crying when she turned her head to look me in the eyes. She was also crying. I don't remember what she yelled at me. Probably something like, "What do you want?" What I do remember is that I walked towards her holding the letter my father wrote. I held her in my arms, while my hands crumpled the old paper. She hugged me, and we both stood in silence. My father's letter made her laugh a few minutes later. We made peace and talked a little about him. She told me about some of his most eccentric habits, such as eating salami with strawberries. Somehow, I felt he was sitting right next to us. Me, my mother, and a piece of my father, a piece he left for us, on a piece of paper. It felt good. It didn't take long before I read, "When you lose your virginity. Congratulations, son. Don't worry, it gets better with time. It always sucks the first time." Mine happened with an ugly woman, who was also a street worker. My biggest fear is that you'd ask your mother what virginity is after reading what's on the letter. Or even worse, reading what I just wrote without knowing what wanking off is. You know what it is, right? But that's none of my business. Love, Dad. My father followed me through my entire life. He was with me, even though he was not near me. His words did what no one else could. They gave me strength to overcome countless challenging moments in my life. He would always find a way to put a smile on my face when things looked grim, or clear my mind during those angry moments. When you get married made me feel very emotional. But not so much as when you become a father. Now you'll understand what real love is, son. You'll realize how much you love her, but real love is something you'll feel for this little thing over there. I don't know if it's a boy or a girl. I'm just a corpse, I'm not a fortune teller. Have fun. It's a great thing. Time is gonna fly now, so make sure you'll be around. Never miss a moment, they never come back. Change diapers, bathe the baby, be a role model to this child. I think you have what it takes to be an amazing father, just like me. The most painful letter I read in my entire life was also the shortest letter my father wrote. While he wrote those 4 words, I believe he suffered just as much as I did living through that moment. It took a while, but eventually I had to open when your mother is gone. She is mine now. A joke. A sad clown hiding his sadness with a smile on his makeup. It was the only letter that didn't make me smile, but I could see the reason. I always kept the deal I had made with my father. I never read letters before their time. With the exception of when you realize you're gay. Since I never thought I'd have to open this one, I decided to read it. It was one of the funniest letters, by the way. What can I say? I'm glad I'm dead. Now, all joking aside, being half dead made me realize that we care too much about things that don't matter much. Do you think that changes anything, son? Don't be silly. Be happy. I would always wait for the next moment, the next letter. The next lesson my father would teach me. It's amazing what a 27-year-old man can teach to an 85-year-old senior like me. Now that I am lying on a hospital bed, with tubes in my nose and my throat, thanks to this damn cancer, I run my fingers on the faded paper of the only letter I didn't open. The sentence "when your time comes" is barely visible on the envelope. I don't want to open it. I'm scared. I don't want to believe that my time is near. It's a matter of hope, you know? No one believes they're gonna die. I take a deep breath, opening the envelope. Hello, son. I hope you're an old man now. You know, this letter was the easiest to write, and the first I wrote. It was the letter that set me free from the pain of losing you. I think your mind becomes clearer when you're this close to the end. It's easier to talk about it. In my last days here I thought about the life I had. I had a brief life, but a very happy one. I was your father and the husband of your mother. What else could I ask for? It gave me peace of mind. Now you do the same. My advice for you, you don't have to be afraid. P.S. I miss you. My 13-year-old brother leaves the house every night. When I found out why, I never looked at him the same. Every evening at 6 o'clock, straight after dinner, my brother who was 13 left the house and did not come back until well after midnight. He claimed to just be meeting friends. It was summer, so our parents did not mind. They were just glad that he had finally stopped playing Call of Duty with strangers on the internet and made some real-life friends instead. However, I had my suspicions. My brother had never exactly played well with others. A few years prior, he bit a boy at a birthday party. As his older sister, I felt protective and wanted to make sure he wasn't getting himself into trouble or wrapped up with the wrong crowd. I was only 2 years older than him, but I still felt it was my responsibility to look out for him. One evening, after he left, I asked my parents if they really thought he was just going to meet friends. They looked at each other and shrugged. Our father said we had no reason not to believe him. I said we should worry about what he was doing with these friends, if they even really existed. Our father sipped his tea and our mother put more bread into the toaster. Our mother then asked if I was jealous about my brother having friends. She claimed I wasn't exactly popular myself. She said I used to spend most of my spare time with my brother before he made his new friends. It was not true that I did not have many friends. I had lots of friends. But it was true that me and my brother spent a lot of time together. I loved him and he was my friend. To be honest, he was my best friend. But my interest in his new friends was honestly out of concern rather than jealousy. I considered my brother to be a very naive and innocent individual. He still believed wrestling was real for God's sake. I just had the sinking feeling that somebody was taking advantage of him or making him do really bad stuff. The following morning, I walked into his room as he slept and sat on the edge of his bed. I thought if I ambushed him early then he might part with the truth a bit more easily. I screamed and my brother sat sharply up as if he had just woken from a nightmare. I laughed and he called me a bitch while rubbing his eyes. I begged him to tell me where he went at night, and he fed me the same old BS friend's excuse. I said I did not believe him and was just being a good sister by trying to find out the truth. He said he did not need my help, protection or friendship. I stole the pillow from behind his back and started beating him over the head. This was an attempt at harassing him into telling me the truth. This attempt did not work. He fought back with a second pillow and quickly gained the upper hand. I fled from his room, and he slammed the door. He told me to mind my own business from the other side. That evening, I decided to follow my brother. Usually, I am an advocate for respecting someone's privacy, but this was about a family member's safety. As he walked up the driveway, I put on my jumper and pulled up the hood. My parents asked where I was going, and I said I was going to meet some friends. I had to be careful while following my brother. I stayed a safe distance behind and dropped down to tie my shoelaces the one time he looked back. When he walked into a small grocery store, I ducked behind a BMW and peeked over the side to watch him. He waited until the sole cashier turned around, then stuffed his pockets with candy and paste from the store. I expected an alarm to go off but only heard the nearby traffic and concluded my brother must have known the store was too cheap to have a proper security system. This was where I first started thinking my brother might be less innocent and naive than I originally thought. I continued following him until he reached a farm located 5 minutes outside of town. He knocked on the door and I crouched behind the ditch at the top of the thankfully short entrance road. A girl answered the door and pulled him straight into a hug followed by a sloppy kiss on the cheek. This girl was cute, and I was absolutely flabbergasted. I did not think my brother had reached the stage of liking girls. Just the previous week, he had fretted over the existence of cooties and laughed at the idea of hanging out with the girl who lived across the street. As I turned to go home and further contemplate the true reason for my brother's daily outings, the girl led him around the side of the two-story farmhouse. Curiosity got the better of me and I prayed none of the girl's family were watching from the windows. I peeked around the corner of the house and saw my brother sitting with the girl on a garden bench. They ate the sweets he stole from the grocery store and told each other horrendously unfunny knock-knock jokes. Then the girl stood up from the bench and opened the back door of her house and a dog sprinted around the garden. The dog jumped onto my brother's lap, and he pushed him off. My brother never liked dogs. I heard the girl say she had been wanting to get rid of the dog for a long time. She said he belonged to her stepmother. My brother and the girl bent beside the dog and broke off little squares of chocolate from the jumbo-sized bar. They fed the chocolate squares to the dog while shooting each other mischievous smiles. I recalled all the times our parents told us never to feed chocolate to a dog due to its fatal effect. I sprinted away from the house, distraught that my previously sweet brother had turned into an animal-murdering monster. When I got back to our house, my parents immediately noticed my red eyes and asked me what was wrong. I didn't have the heart to tell them what their son had become. I had decided to deal with the problem on my own, but just didn't know how yet. I told them I had gotten into a fight with my friends and wanted to be left alone. I went to my room, got into bed and buried my face in my pillow. I was woken the following morning by my brother knocking on the door. He sat on the edge of my bed and sighed. Our parents had told him I was upset and sent him to comfort me. He asked me what happened and who were these supposed friends that had upset me. I sat up to yell at him and call him a murderer. I was about to call him all the nasty names under the sun, warning him to never go near that girl or her house again. Then I realized it was only going to drive him further into her psychotic grasp. I told my brother to mind his own business and leave me alone. He mumbled something about me getting more dramatic with every passing day and left my room. I came up with a plan to get my brother away from the bad influence farm girl without him ever knowing my input. Some internet research revealed it was only the girl, her father and her stepmother living at the house. The girl's name was Emer and I thought that was an ugly name. An hour later, I was back at the top of the Emer's laneway. I watched the house for 40 minutes, pondering the best way to execute my plan. Then her dad and stepmom got into their car. I pretended to be a stranger out for a stroll and waved as they drove past. When their car had turned the corner, I walked up the laneway and knocked on the door. Emer answered the door, and I walked straight past her into the living room. She asked me what the hell I thought I was doing, and I sat down on her couch. She threatened to call the police and I said I would tell her father and stepmom the truth about the dog unless she did exactly what I said. I instructed the girl not to speak to my brother or even look in his direction again. I instructed her to block his number and ignore him if he ever approached her when school started back up. The girl nodded meekly and told me she was sorry for everything. She said the dog had bit her, and I said I did not believe her nor care. Back at my home, as I ate dinner with my family, I felt proud of myself. I had successfully looked out for my little brother. Us being able to be friends again was also a nice bonus. I imagined he would be heartbroken over losing the girl, but I knew it was for the best in the long term. Besides, he was 13. It couldn't have been anything more than puppy love. Then, after dinner, much to my confusion, my brother put on his coat and said he was off to meet his friends again. I chased him up the driveway and asked if he had heard from his friends today. My brother turned around and laughed in my face. Some of his spit landed on my nose. My brother said he no longer considered me his sister. He said it would be my word against his and the girl's about what happened to the dog. He warned me to never go near her again or else I'd see a side of him that I would not like. I didn't know what to say. Ever since then, I looked at him with disgust, wondering how he could do the horrid things he was doing. He would leave at 6 o'clock for about the next 2 months almost every night, and my parents never suspected a thing. I decided to leave it alone because I actually feared him. If he had the heartlessness to kill that dog, who knows how dangerous he really could be. As soon as I left for college, I made a vow to myself that I would never try and see my brother again. I've stayed true to that, even if it means missing family events that he would be at. Sometimes my parents argue with me about not showing up, but I just tell them that my brother knows why, and you will just have to get it out of him. I don't think they actually have yet, or he probably would have tried to frame me for that thing he did so long ago. It frightens me that he could have done so much more by now, but I am not really afraid of him anymore. I have a big strong husband now that I feel can protect me and our 2-year-old. My sick brother is no match for him.